Where are you from?
Hi, my name's Majid and I'm from Lebanon.
Lebanon. And are you in America now?
Yes, I've always been.
Okay. Have you been to Lebanon?
No,
Okay. What religion are you?
I'm Muslim.
Okay. Um, so you've never visited, I have a question. How come you've never visited Lebanon?
I never got the chance to.
Okay. So not because you didn't want to or anything like that.
I would love to go someday.
Oh, okay. Have your parents been to Lebanon?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Have you been any place else in the Middle East? I'm just curious.
I've been to the UAE, Turkey. I've been to Saudi
Never
Arabia.
went to Lebanon? Why did you go to Lebanon then?
I never got the chance. Every time, I want to go. There's war, different stuff like that, shortages in foods and electricity, and all different kinds of problems.
Yeah, you're right. There hasn't been electricity, but that being said, I know people who go even when the electricity is bad.
hmm
I don't know how you feel about that, but I know plenty of people who've gone when the electricity. I mean, listen, I don't know about how you feel about luxury, but I know a lot of Lebanese people who they just truck it through and I don't know people, but I guess those are people who grew up there and they're just used to that kind of thing. But whatever, I talked to a lot of Lebanese people. A lot of Lebanese people have been entering my life lately, and they just go whenever it's home, and and they tell me there's good areas, and I'm not an expert in Lebanon, but they tell me there's good areas and there's bad areas, and
hmm
I hear this about Yemen too, right? Because my ex is from Ib, and he tells me like Ib, like everything's fine, and like it's not everywhere is war. Like the same with Ukraine, right? I had a friend who worked in a summer camp in the mountains, and
hmm
she's like, there, like it's fine. She's like, you're safe there. She literally did a summer camp for the kids there, and she was
hmm
like perfectly safe. And you would think like Ukraine, wars everywhere, but it's. I learned this that like even though there's war in certain places, there can be places in within that country where you're totally safe and everything is pretty much copacetic, even
hmm
though there's literally conflict in that country. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't understand that. They think, But anyways, that's just a side note. So, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on Israel Palestine?
I think what's going on is truly devastating. With like the hostages and with like all the people being killed in Gaza.
Can you say unalived? We have to use TikTok friendly terms. Unalived age group.
Sorry?
Whenever we like to listen to you, have to use TikTok friendly words. Unalived age group.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
You have to use TikTok friendly words. Unalived age group.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. So all the people being unalived. Yes, it's very sad. I agree. Tragic. Yes.
Yeah, it's very devastating what's going on.
Right. But at least there's a ceasefire with Lebanon now, even though age group in Lebanon keeps on breaking it. But hopefully it'll stay.
Yeah, hopefully, there could just be peace in the region.
I mean, I listen. I don't think there's going to be peace between the Palestinians. I mean, obviously not in the West Bank, but even in Gaza, because my thing about it is I don't see these T groups. They're just they can't resist the urge to attack Israel, right? They just can't, and they're not smart, right? Like the thing about it is that they don't ever free Palestine, quote unquote. It doesn't get them closer to a two-state solution. It doesn't get them anything, right? It just gets them more of their own people unalived and injured, gets them further away from a two-state solution, gets them more restrictions, takes away their work permits, gets them more checkpoints, more walls, more settlements. What I'm saying is it takes them 40 steps backwards instead of 10 steps forward every single time they do these things. When they throw rockets at Israel, gets them boom boomed. October 7th got them this major war. All these things don't achieve what they want, right? Even though they think somehow, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I know they get great satisfaction out of unaliving people, but is it worth it? How many of their people get unalived, right? But I know the T groups don't care about that, right? They think of them as martyred, whatever. But putting that aside, right? I
Mhm.
think if they were smart, they would realize this is counterproductive, but they're not the brightest light bulbs. So the thing about it is that since they're not that smart, this is what you have to deal with, right? And I think they'll continue making stupid decisions and keep on sacrificing their own people for the sake of something that's not accomplishing anything for themselves, just dragging the Palestinians into more and more conflict.
Hmm. Yeah,
I mean, the
and
same thing with H group in Lebanon, right? Which they say is now that they're having a ceasefire is replenishing their stuff, or trying to at least, is that they're going to drag Lebanon into another conflict eventually, and make the Lebanese people suffer because they don't care about the Lebanese people, just like H group and PIJ and all these groups in Gaza and the West Bank don't care about the Palestinian people. They just care about their own objectives.
mhm,
They don't care about the innocent civilians that they affect.
mhm. Yeah, it's truly devastating. Because I mean, they're not, it's not the innocent people that are causing what's going on, and they're
Exactly. It's
mainly getting
the T
affected.
people that do it and use them as their. They weaponize the people. They use their people as propaganda, and they weaponize their unalivings against Israel and against. They really want their people to be unalive so they can use this propaganda. And it's very, very sad. I feel, listen, I've heard many Israelis say, I was fortunate not to be born a Palestinian. I would hate to be in their positions. It's very, it's a, listen, I would hate to live under an occupation. I would hate to live uh, with a government like the PA or H group. It's a bad situation to be in. It's a really bad situation to be in. You know, I'm
Mhm,
not saying the Israeli government is that great, but the Israeli government was just not a T organization. You know, so I think honestly, it's very sad, and I care about the Palestinians, and not just because you know we're 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 very related in this conflict, also because they're human beings, right? Their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their sons, their daughters. You know, I feel bad for the situation they're in. It's a really really sad situation, and I think a lot of people have made a lot of bad decisions for them, and I think that there's some of them that just want you know just self determination and don't want all this headache and just wish that all these people weren't making these bad decisions for them.
mhm. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it all is about like the civilians and the innocent people um, in those places that that are being tortured, but it's truly not. It's not their fault, but it's getting it's going straight to them, and that's what is really devastating.
I agree, but here's the thing, right? I think I hope that I hope that age group and Israel can come to a ceasefire agreement, but let's hope that it also sticks,
Hmm.
and let's hope that age group doesn't decide to attack again,
Hmm. Yeah.
because age group has broken all the ceasefires, and PIJ has broken all the ceasefires,
Hmm.
and age group in Lebanon is breaking the ceasefires in Lebanon too. So, like I said, they have like this urge. It's like it's like a fix with them. Like they can't stop the urge to attack Israel. So honestly, if there's a ceasefire, I just wonder how long it will hold. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. I hope. There's a deal that comes soon.
Well, they said that everybody's saying the progress is very good on the deal.
Mhm.
So they're saying that this is the most progress they've ever made on the deal. But the thing is, they've also got to let the hostages go, and I think H Group, it's very painful for them to let go of the hostages because they want them to release certain prisoners, and Israel's just not going to give them certain prisoners because it's too dangerous to let go of certain prisoners. So I think they want to hold on to certain hostages to for those high level prisoners, right? The thing
Mhm.
about it is that Israel's released certain prisoners before, and those prisoners became the head of H group, right? Like Sinwar, right? They released Sinwar, and look who Sinwar became, right? So honestly, I think they released. I'm forgetting the Israeli soldier that was released that they released him for. I'm so bad. It was an Israeli soldier that they released like 1,000 people for. I think that's when they got when they let go of Sinwar. So the point is that that they when they release these high level prisoners, often these high level prisoners become very problematic for Israel.
Mm.
So I think they're trying to avoid, there's one in particular that they're really trying to avoid releasing, and I forget his name, he was in the papers the other day. But H Group really wants him.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like this should have never happened. Personally, and um, I feel like the Jews and the Israelis, they should have their own separate kind of territory, but I mean as well as like the Palestinians should have their own land.
Well, I
Um,
think the Palestinians should have self determination too, but they can't have it if they're going to try to attack Israel from that state. And that's where we're at right now, right? Where the Palestinians, if they got their own state, they would try to take the rest of the land from that state. So that's why there's no offer out for a two-state solution, because we don't trust that they would live peacefully side by side with the state of Israel.
mhm. Yeah, I think what's it called? I forgot what I was gonna say, but um, I think that there. I mean, how you said like self determination for the Palestinian people. I just feel like what's going on is really, really, really bad. And I feel like there should be a little more help that's going into it. And I feel like, I mean, obviously, I'm not there to witness exactly what's going on, but I have a lot of family in that area. I know people.
Majid, I would love for the Palestinians to have a state tomorrow, but the problem is that it risks the security of Israel, right? Because that's why they would say they want them to have a demilitarized state, because they would literally attack Israel from that state and try to take the rest of the land. Their
Mhm.
dream is river to the sea. They are not happy with part of the land. They want all the land. They don't want Israel to exist. That's what a majority of their people want. That's what their government wants. And that's where the problem lies, is the Palestinians don't want to share the land. They want all the land. And until that river to the sea mentality is gone, we can't have a two-state solution. We can't. And listen, I'm for a two-state solution, but their mentality has to change. It has to change. It has to change. Because there's going to be a state of Israel. There needs to be a state of Israel. There should be a state of Israel. And we can't have this always trying to destroy Israel mentality and then be on our borders.
But see,
And the
the
bottom
thing
line
is,
is, let me tell you what's going to happen. I'll tell you what's probably going to happen. And I don't want this to happen. What's probably going to happen is, with Trump in office and Shmulkovich and Ben Gvir on the Israeli side, the West Bank might be annexed, and the Palestine. I don't even know how that's going to work, because honestly, there's too many T groups on the West Bank. I don't know how the IDF is going to control them if it all becomes part of Israel. And the PA isn't in A and B areas, A and B, where Nablus and Jenin are. But I don't know how Israel's going to deal with that headache. But let's say they do that, and the Palestinians become residents of the West Bank. Again, the IDF is going to have a whole hell basket on their hands. But whatever, not my monkey, not my circus. I guess they'll deal with it. But the point is, if they decide to do that or even annex Area C, I don't think Trump's going to stand in their way, because honestly, I think people are just tired of this rivers to the sea thing. People are just done with it. And even Gaza, right? I even have a fear that Gaza might be resettled at this point because of Trump's very, very right wing cabinet. And, you have kind of a right wing government in Israel, and Trump's not going to, I don't know if Trump would even stand in the way of that. All these things are on the table now because of the government in America and the government and some people in the government in Israel, which I think the thing in Gaza is kind of like maybe like a very, very small chance, but it could happen. It could. But the thing in the West Bank is a bigger chance, right? And both these things I'm against, but that's what it's looking like because of what happened here in America with the elections. And because of the situation with the Palestinians constantly pushing the Israelis and the Israelis losing any thought of the Palestinians living peacefully with them, because of October 7th, because of everything, they've just completely just put aside any chance that the Palestinians would ever like they don't want them to have any kind of anything at this point. That's what I mean. Yeah, sure, Ben Gvir and Smokovich always thought like that, but they got everybody else agreeing with them now too because they're just so scared that the Palestinians just want to just completely over, which is true. There's no false to that. I'm just saying they put the fear in every single Israeli. There's no peaceniks left because of what happened on October 7th and because of everybody all over the world chanting rivers to the sea. This whole thing, maybe you guys think protests are trendy in America, but it's turned Israel so right wing that it's going to backfire on the Palestinians. Everything everybody's doing is hurting the Palestinians. It might look good overseas, but it's hurting the Palestinians because it's making everybody in Israel so to the right that it's going to make the Palestinians lose. I mean, they already don't have anything. It's going to make them lose any chance of having anything. So again, it's not helping anything. It's hurting everything. Because the more fear you put into the Israelis that they're not going to have security, the more to the right they're going to go. Do you know what I'm saying? The more fear you put into them that the Palestinians are going to attack them and take their state and so on and so forth, the more to the right they're going to go.
Well,
And that's what this is done. All this worldwide stuff and all this stuff, October 7th, all these by the way, the T attacks, if you don't know, have continued in the West Bank and Israel. All these threats from H group, there was a 12-year-old boy that was unalived in a T attack. I think it was near Jerusalem the other day. And H group, their first statement from their spokesperson in 2 months, praised it and said, do more T attacks, go unalive more 12-year-olds. So that's the thing. Like more statements like this, more lack of self-determination they're going to get. And they're, like I said, they're stupid. They're not smart enough to figure out that they're just kicking themselves in the ass. They're not very smart.
To look at, what happened before October 7th and stuff. And, where, because I've had, a lot of family members, my grandma and grandpa, they came from Lebanon, and stuff. So you also, and then you got to also look at, what happened,
What do you mean what happened before October 7th? Well, let's talk about that. Let's say we had the 2 intifadas by the H group where they were blowing up buses, strapping on boom booms to themselves and blowing themselves up in buses and unaliving scores of people in nightclubs, buses, pizza parlors, schools, Pesach seders, and unaliving scores of people, including pregnant women, children, babies, grandpas and grandmas. Let's see, have we not forgotten the intifadas?
Well, we also have to look at,
H group too. Remember that all Israelis are scared to get on buses because they're scared that another bus will get blown up. So that's the reason why October 7th was the last straw, because H group has been blowing up people, stabbing people, shooting people, and blowing up things for the last 40 years in Israel. So that's why there's checkpoints and walls, and that's why Gaza is blockaded, because Hamas H group has been unaliving scores of people in Israel for forever.
Well, you also, like the Palestinian people originally, they wanted the Jewish, they wanted to coincide
That's
with
not
the Jew.
true. The Palestinians have been unaliving. There were some kumbaya
No, I'm
moments.
saying originally.
Let me tell you the history. Since the Palestinians have been there, the Palestinians have been unaliving the Jews so much that they were names for the major massacres during the Ottoman Empire and the British mandate that the Palestinians did of the Jews. Let me name one of them. In Hebron, okay, the Palestinians unalived the Jewish population in Hebron, okay, to the point that the Jewish population in Hebron, which had a community there for 200 years, basically was wiped out of Hebron, okay? They unalived the whole community there, right? So I hate to break it to you, but there were major massacres of Palestinians on Jews in the Ottomans and, like I said, the British Mandate.
Well, a lot of Palestinians I personally know that came here and stuff like that. You know, we have like a lot of Jewish friends, and they want peace and stuff like that too. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not um, the Palestinian people that should be hurt, and I mean,
I
they
don't
wanted
think
it
anybody
to
should be
be
hurt, but I think the tea people
they
definitely
wanted
need
to
to be gone.
coincide with the Jews, and I mean, obviously, this did not happen when they allowed them to come
They
and
didn't allow
talk.
them to come. That's just not true. The Palestinians did not allow them to come. Actually, the white paper that was done by the British was done because the Palestinians rioted so much when the Jews came. They had to actually stop immigration of the Jews because the Palestinians did such an uprising when the Jews came. So I hate to break it to you when some Jews came and immigrated during the British Mandate. So I hate to break it to you, but the Palestinians did not welcome the Jews. If you don't believe me about that, you can look it up under the Britannica Encyclopedia, which is not pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian. They have a great whole write up on the white paper that was done by the British during the British Mandate because the Palestinians rioted. They were called Arabs back then, but yeah, about the Arab riots that caused the white paper.
Well, I've spoken with a lot of people. I've
You've
researched a lot about
spoken
it. I
with
know a lot about
people.
what's going on.
You've spoken with your friends.
I've not just them. I from both sides.
Have you ever been to Israel?
I've never been there.
So you've never been to Israel. And what news sources do you read?
I've a lot of international news sources, a lot of
Which
American news
ones? Which
sources,
ones? Which name some of them?
CNN, Fox, BBC, um, and
So you
then
read American and British news sources.
I've also some you know different other ones. But I mean, it's at the end of the day, like I've been saying,
You
we
don't read news from the region. You haven't named any news sources from the region.
okay.
You've named American and British news sources. You haven't named any news sources from the
So are
region.
you justifying what's going on?
Justifying what? What are you
Are you
asking me? Justifying
justifying
what?
the unaliving of innocent children?
I'm not justifying the unaliving of any innocent civilians, but in every war, innocent civilians get unalived.
I mean,
Happens in every single
a
war.
lot
But
of people I know personally want peace in the region, and
I
what's
want
going
peace.
on?
I want peace too. But the thing
Mhm.
about it is that we have T groups running wild in Israel Palestine. Do you know how many T groups there are in Israel Palestine? There are like 30 or 40 of them. Do you know how many? And there are new ones cropping up every single day. See, I don't think you actually watch reliable news and media. I don't think you know the amount of T groups. Do you know the Palestinian Authority right now is fighting T groups in Jenin and Nablus, and they just unalived a 15-year-old T person, right? 15-year-old was over there pew-pewing at the Palestinian Authority, a 15-year-old T person, right? Because there's 15-year-olds, there's also 12-year-olds that are also T people, unfortunately, right? 15-year-olds who have unalived people in T attacks, right? No, sorry, 12-year-olds. I was talking about 12-year-olds. 12-year-olds who have unalived people in T attacks, right? So I hate to break it to you, but you have child T people, right? Not just adult T people. And the Palestinian Authority is now dealing with them. Palestinians unaliving other Palestinian T people. Do you know that? Have you read the news? That
Yes, I've read a lot of news
The U.S.
sources.
is asking Israel to okay weapons to go to the Palestinian Authority to fight T people on their end. Now they want the Palestinians to fight the T people, not the Israelis, not just the Israelis.
Yeah, but it was Palestine's land originally. It was not
No, no.
Israel's land.
When was it a
They came and
Palestinian?
they're trying to take
Hold on,
over.
Majid,
Then
Majid.
I have a
Oh,
question. No,
Majid.
excuse me, Andrea.
I have a question. I have
They
a question.
bombed
Hold on.
Lebanon multiple times.
Majid,
What?
question. When was it a Palestinian state? When was it a Palestinian state?
In 1940s, in the
No,
1940s and before that.
Majid, you're
Hmm.
wrong. It was never a Palestinian state. It was the British mandate in 1940. It was the British mandate of Palestine. The British had a mandate. There was never a Palestinian state. See, you don't even know your history. It was the British mandate of Palestine, and before that, it was the Ottoman Empire. Before that was the Byzantines and the Muslim conquerors, all these other people who occupied it. The Palestinians never had a sovereign state or country, okay? Just not true. Then the reason why you see Palestine on the maps is because it was a region named by the Romans and the Greeks. an area. Okay. If you look up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the definition of Palestine, they call it a region with changing and disputed boundaries. Palestine, the region, once upon a time included Lebanon and Syria, right? Okay, it's a region. It's never been a state or a country ruled by the Palestinians or anybody else for that matter. It's never been a state or a country. Never. Listen, the only people who had like a state or a country there were the Jews, the Kingdom of Israel, the Kingdom of Judea, and the State of Israel. The British had a mandate. The Ottomans had it as part of the Ottoman Empire. The Byzantines just occupied it. The other people were there just occupied it. Were just there for a season, okay? The Palestinians never had a state or a country. You have no clue what you're talking about. You're so misinformed. If you want to know the history, I have a video in my link tree, okay? It's a couple links down. It's with Israeli historian Benny Morris, which, by the way, pointed out massacres that the IDF did on the Palestinians in the Nakba. So he's kind of pro-Pali in a way. In this book, I think it was called 1948. So agree with him on that, okay? But putting that aside, okay? Coleman Hughes interviews Benny Morris, Israeli historian, okay, in this video, all right? And the first 30 minutes of the video is the history of Israel Palestine from 1880 to 2023. Go watch the video and go learn the history because you have no idea what the history is. You are so misinformed on the history. So misinformed on the history.
Well, actually,
So misinformed on the history. You don't have any clue what you're talking about.
Actually, yes, I do. I have way more clue than you. Clearly, you don't know anything you're talking about.
Ma'am, quiet.
Excuse you?
Palestinians live
Sorry,
there.
don't tell me to be quiet. Who the heck are you?
Palestinians live there. Jews live there, and so did other people, okay? The land belongs to Jews, Palestinians, Druze, Armenians, and a smorgasbord of other people have made it their home since a while, okay? To say that the Palestinian narrative that only it belongs to the Palestinian is ridiculous. They never learned how to share in kindergarten. The bottom line is it belongs to a lot of people, and nobody's going anywhere and arguing about who was there the longest, who was there first, who's more native, who's more indigenous. It's just a moot point because nobody's going anywhere. It's not going to keep one Jew from moving there, one Jew from leaving, going, right of return, nothing.
Then what's going on in Lebanon? What
anywhere.
has always happened there?
What?
What's going on? So you're justifying what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank.
I'm not justifying anything. I'm telling you the fact.
What's going on in Lebanon?
And ma'am, the reality in the year 2024 is there's a state of Israel. There's the occupied Palestinian territory. There's right of return for Jews in the state of Israel. There's no right of return for Palestinians. Okay, Jews can immigrate there. If you're married to a Jew, you can also immigrate there. If you're an Israeli Arab, there's 2 million Israeli Arabs that live there. Okay, there's asylum for some other people, okay, and there's a smorgasbord of other people who have made it their home, who live there on visas or whatever, okay, and there's also other people who have also become citizens through other ways, okay. The bottom line is that's the reality in the year 2024, okay, and there's Armenians and Druze that live there, okay, that's the reality in the year 2024. Nobody's going to change that. As much as you guys cry and say free Palestine on the TikTok and sit here and get triggered and upset, like it's not, you're not going to change that. That's the reality.
So when you say you guys, what do you mean by that?
I'm saying you guys in general.
Who's you guys?
Okay. Can we move beyond this? I just think you're getting stuck on this point. Well, what is your next point?
I'm saying this shouldn't happen.
What specifically shouldn't happen? There being a Jewish majority state, does that upset you?
Sorry, what was that?
Does that upset you that there's a Jewish majority state? Is that what shouldn't happen?
No, I believe everyone should have their own territory.
Okay, so what shouldn't happen? What particularly shouldn't happen?
The killings of innocent people in Lebanon.
Unaliving. Innocent people get unalived all over the world. Listen, life is not fair. Kids shouldn't get unalived of cancer. Domestic violence shouldn't happen. Hunger shouldn't happen. Homelessness shouldn't happen. Life is not fair. When you become a certain age, you realize life isn't fair, right? It's not fair that we all, get unalived by the time we're 120. It's not fair, right? It's not fair that I'm fat because of certain genes I have. Life is not fair, right? It's not fair that I have a kidney disease. Life is not fair. The bottom line is in a war, innocent civilians get unalived. It's not fair that Shireen got unalived because she was caught by a stray bullet. Life is not fair, right? bad shit happens to people, right? Why do young kids get unalived by bad illnesses? Ask God. Bad things happen. Shit happens. That's life. I'm sorry. War should never happen. I agree. But when war happens, people get unalived. It's reality. Wake up. The world is not fair. War
I'm
is
aware of that.
ugly and terrible and
I'm half
horrific.
Lebanese,
And
I'm
I'm
half
sorry if this is
Iranian, so I
I'm
get
sorry, I'm
multiple
sorry if this is
viewpoints.
the first time you're watching war on your iPhone. I watched the Afghanistan war, the Iraq war, the Syrian war, the Yemeni war. I watched Shias get tortured in Bahrain. I'm sorry. I've watched a lot of bad shit. And with all due respect, like, life is just really sucks.
Well, that's a little sad.
Like, life is just really terrible. It really is. And the sooner you accept that and realize that, like, bad shit happens, and, like, with all due respect, it's part of life. And it's tragic and it's awful. And some things are just going to happen. And yes, we should try our best to prevent it. But some things are just going to happen. And war civilians are going to
But
be
why do you
unharmed.
think all
So
of
it
this,
can't be
these
prevented
T
to a
groups?
certain degree.
Sorry?
Civilians you can never have zero civilian casualties in war. It just can't happen.
Yeah, but I mean, with all of these, what do you? I mean, I don't. So where I'm really confused here is, why do you think all of these wars are happening with Israel? Why?
Why do I think all these wars are happening with Israel? Why? Why?
Why?
Because people keep on attacking Israel. My advice to people is stop fucking with Israel. Stop doing T attacks. H group in Lebanon, stop attacking Israel. H group in Gaza, stop attacking Israel. PIJ, stop attacking Israel. Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, stop attacking Israel. People from Jenin Brigade, stop attacking Israel. You don't want the IDF to come and hunt you down? Don't attack Israel. Best life advice ever. Don't fuck with Israel if you don't want Israel to fuck with you. Thank you so much for joining the live.